we'll do a set of runs up close and moving all the way back. We'll switch to a different drill, do a lot of repetition, a lot of shooting, and then work all the way back, that kind of thing. So again, expect to shoot a lot on this. The reason that we're going to use a lot of rounds is because this is probably the most important drill that we can shoot out here, the most important stuff. The reason is we cannot dry fire these concepts. We cannot. Okay, you have to experience recoil and blast and all that stuff in order to understand what's going on here. Every other concept you work on, you can practice without ammunition, but we need ammo for those. Anyway, go on eyes and ears, please, guys. Let me make an example for you. As you can see here, I'm going to look at a small spot on the target. I'm going to draw the gun, all right? No time limit for the draw. I don't care. I want to build up a grip that I judge is acceptable, right? Look at that spot. Okay, the sight's there. Then I'm going to pull the trigger twice about as fast as I can, okay, while I keep staring at this spot. Okay, the only time we're assessing here is that you actually go like and pull the trigger twice about as fast as you can. After that, let the gun settle down. No time over there, just like let the gun settle down. Even I want to be able to assess what just happened. All right, and then I shoot another pair and another pair and so on. A total of 4 pairs. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right, what we're assessing here is what's happening while you're firing those 2 rounds quickly. Like so, first, as far as your sights, what you see visually, I want you to be able to articulate to me like what you see your sight doing. It should be consistent and predictable. Like it should do the same thing every time. You should understand like, yep, this is how my sight's moving. It should be the same every time. And then your grip on the gun should be durable. Like as you shoot more and more and more, your grip should not change. Okay? How many of you are going to be able to do those things? Being honest.
Not many, probably.
Now, yes, if you think this is easy, like you don't understand what I'm asking you to do. Okay, this is very difficult. All right, let's talk through it. Now, when you draw the gun, like I said, I want you to go ahead and get a grip that you judge as acceptable. So, what does that mean? Right. Pretty much everybody here, they're going to look like this holding their gun, right? Maybe like this, maybe even like this. I am fine with all of those things, by the way. Like the position of your hands on the gun, I don't think is that interesting. Okay, it doesn't matter really that much. Now, what you should pay attention to is pressures. Okay, so now as I tense up my hand more and more and more, it becomes difficult to move my finger quickly and independently, right? Okay, so with my firing hand on the gun, what I want to do is use as much pressure as I have to, but no more. And what I want is a couple of things. First, the gun cannot move around inside of my grip. Like I should never feel the gun sliding in my hand. Okay, so I need to hold hard enough that the gun doesn't move. For most of you here, that'll be like if you clamp down 100% as much as you can see, like I'm very, very tense here, right? Clamp down as hard as you can and then back off to like firm instead of like squeezing to the gun. Firm is the word that works for most people. Okay, but again, the gun what matters is that it doesn't move around inside of your grip. I'm going to tense up my forearm enough that my wrist is locked. So the gun shouldn't recoil like this. It should recoil like this. So I just don't want a pivot point on your wrist. Okay? So hold the gun with your firing hand, flex my wrist enough that the gun doesn't pivot. Okay? With my support hand, I need to make contact with the frame of the gun. It is not helpful to crush your fingers. I need to hold the gun. Okay, so with my support hand, I'm gonna wrap around and push into the frame of the gun. And again, I cannot feel the frame moving around inside of my hand. If I see this when you're shooting, the trigger guard bouncing off your hand, this is a big problem, right? This means that the gun's moving around inside of your grip. Okay, so with my support hand, clamp down, and again, flex my wrist enough, or flex my forearm enough that my wrists aren't a pivot point for the gun. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people, I would say, hold the gun way too hard with their firing hand, and then they don't do shit really with their support hand, in my estimation. Okay, that'll be most people's problem. As you shoot more and more and more, that tends to get worse. So you draw the gun, you start shooting, and then you start tensing up this side. Usually the support hand just kind of leaves the gun, or like the pressure eases up, And that just induces you feel like you sense a loss of control of the gun, and then you just make it where you start clamping down more and more and more. So be on guard for that. That's the most common thing that you're going to see. I'll show you what that looks like. You can see my support hand clearly just wasn't doing shit on the gun. Okay, question for you. What happened here? What was going on?
Pushing the gun down with your trigger hand.
With my firing hand, yes. So this is the most common thing that people do is they fire one shot, they're dealing with the recoil from that shot, and then they push down into the gun, and they end up sending their second shot down low or to the side. I mean, this is a very extreme example, but this is what most people are predisposed to do. Now, the reason that we're shooting rapid fire pairs is to get you comfortable with the idea that you're going to be shooting the gun aggressively and just never pushing down on it. You're going to let it recoil and do its thing while you look at the spot you want it to return to without clamping down your hand and driving the gun down. This is the most common thing. Everybody agree with that? This is what you see. Now, this is why it has to be rapid fire pairs. If we slow down the shooting to where it's like one shot, then the recoil is sort of irrelevant. Next shot, like now we're not shooting at a practical pace. That's not really what you're going to be asked to do in a USPSA match, is it? You're going to have to shoot really aggressively. Okay, so this is the core thing that we're working on here. As you're shooting this drill, I want you to pay attention to what your hands are doing and make sure you're looking at a small spot. I'm not really too worried about the outcome. I'm worried that you can articulate what's happening. So if I walk up and say, hey, what happened here? You're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's not a good answer. If you're like, yep, I fired that shot, I saw my dot went up in recoil, felt my hand tense up, and I'm pushing down into the gun, and I saw my dot slash down there, and I'm seeing what's happening, I mean, that is good. And then I want you to work on fixing that while you continue to shoot fast. We're not really outcome focused on this. I understand everybody, we can always slow down and shoot in a way that you're comfortable, and then you'll get a better outcome. You'll feel better. Okay, but all you're really doing, if we do that, then all you're really doing is proving you can shoot accurately when you're comfortable. How have you guys have all shot a match, probably? Mm-hmm. Yes, are you comfortable when you're shooting a match? No, you're under stress. It's like, you're like, no, I want to do well. I try to go really fast. It's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. So I want you to shoot in a way that's uncomfortable here. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so again,
how much sight have you seen on the second shot? Any?
All.
All.
All right, so here's a tough thing. So this is what I would call this predictive shooting. After this, we'll do reactive shooting. Okay. So people have a certain, what do they, I'm going to profile. You're old enough, you probably heard of the OODA loop.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So observe, orient, decide, act. Like there's a loop, and like people have a reaction time, is what I'm saying. Okay? I'm shooting now fast enough that no human being can see the sight return for the second shot and be like, yep, I'm good, consciously make a decision, and then pull the trigger for the second shot. That is impossible. You're not going to do that.
So that's the definition of reactive.
Yeah, I'm reacting to what I'm seeing. Yeah. All right, but here we're shooting faster than that. This is predictive shooting. Mm-hmm. Based on training and experience, I understand what the gun's going to do. So I know, like just training experience, if I'm looking at a 5-yard target, gripping my gun the way I know is right, I'll look at this, I'll go boom, and hammer that spot, and I'll see my sight do a thing, but I know that the gun's not going to lift up or move off target.
So you see the sight, but you're not reacting to it.
Correct. Like so, but the key is I want you to see it, right? So you can see and then understand in retrospect what just happened, and learn to do this better. Like the way that we do this from a training perspective is two things. Like you're gonna shooting in a way that you're uncomfortable like this. You're gonna fix foundational skills like gripping the gun properly, looking at a small spot on the target. It helps you get better at shooting. And then the other thing is from a competitive standpoint, as we're gonna back up all the way to those white cones back there and do this. So you will learn what the limit of your predictive shooting ability is. You'll be like, yeah, most guys like are 10, 12 yards, this starts to get difficult. So then you'll understand what that limitation is, and you just like, okay, so at this point I can shoot predictively and it's gonna be okay. Beyond that, I'm gonna have to switch what I'm doing, switch to reactive shooting, okay? I'm totally fine, again, I'm totally fine with you shooting a bad outcome on this. That's how you're gonna learn. So I'm not gonna come over here like, hey dummy, you shot a D. I'll be like, did you Do you understand how that happened? Did you see that happen? Did you call it? Did you feel your hand doing something like that? All right. If you are not aware of what's happening, I'm going to keep shooting aggressively and pay attention to figure it out. Right. So the slowing down is not really going to be the answer here. If you're shooting like I did the first one, it's like right there in the center, a nice tidy group. I'm just going to tell you to go faster. Like, well, you're not uncomfortable yet, so we need to make you uncomfortable. So
How uncomfortable do you want us to shoot? Because I feel like the faster I try to push, the more all over the place I'll be, or uncomfortable I'll be. Is there a level to how fast you want us to shoot? How uncomfortable you want us to be?
Yeah. So like ideally, and like we'll adjust this as we go, like depending on what people's perceptions are. Like the ideal for me is like I'm shooting, I'm not comfortable, and I'm not getting the outcome I want, but I can see and assess what's happening. Right? When I'm shooting so aggressively, like I don't know where the fuck they're going. Like they're off the pay, they're all over the place. Then it's like, yeah, we got it. Like you're not just uncomfortable there. You're I wouldn't say reckless, but it's like it's past the point of being productive.
Understood.
So that's the bar for me. In my own training, it's like if I'm shooting aggressively enough that I'm not getting what I want, but I can still see what's happening. That's like training zone. That's good for training. If I want to back off a little bit and shoot very repeatably and consistently, like, yep, that's what I'm going to do in competition or when it counts. All right. And then if I go beyond that, I'm just like slinging lead around and I don't really know what's happening. That's Instagram speed, where like once I get the outcome that I want, then I can post that video. Not that I would ever do that, but maybe I would. I don't know. All right. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. So, like I said, at the tone, draw the gun, grip it the way that you need to conscious it. You grip the gun correctly. Look at a small spot. Pair. Like, pay attention to what's happening. Assess what's going on. Yeah, this would be. I'll shoot somebody else. Okay, so like, pay attention to what's happening. Okay, we'll do lots of repetitions. We'll tweak what your eyes are doing, all of that stuff. As we back up, we'll talk every yard line. I'll introduce a different concept every yard line and stuff to think about, and we'll get going on this. Any questions? All right, cool. Let's restore this.